And we are back, people. What is up? We'll let everyone get in here real quick. Not breaking down film, but Miami Dolphins versus Green Bay Packers game preview. They played tomorrow night. Biggest game of the season, Thanksgiving, the late night game in the potential, very cold weather. I think even potential snow. I think it's be 30. Thank God it's nothing like the Chiefs game though last year, which was an anomaly. So that one was absolutely out of control. But yeah, we'll let people get in here. I got some notes written down on the Packers, which will be, I think, the toughest matchup for the Dolphins this season out after like the Bills. I think it will be the Packers. It'll be a very intriguing matchup. They're a very good team. It's definitely, I think the Dolphins are underdogs by like 3 points. I think it started off at 4.5 from what I saw, but yeah. Should be, excited and nervous for this game. It's a big one. You're not out of it if you lose technically, but then you would have to go on you'd have to win out to get in. That's why it's definitely a very important game to, I think, pull off. Packers do a lot of things good on both sides of the ball. I would say their offense is better than their defense, but their defense is very opportunistic. They'll create turnovers. I would say like they're kind of middle of the pack, slightly above average in a lot of areas, like run defense wise, pass defense wise. They're missing Jair Alexander, which is big. They're missing Romeo Doubs, one of their better receivers. The receiving group is pretty good too, but they I think a lot of them like are higher up there in like drop percentage. So there's some, good takeaways, but they have a good roster, good team. I think playing in Lambeau will be one of the biggest things. I know there's the whole cold game narrative. I do think that is a slightly overrated thing. I think it's just more so they're playing a good team and on the road, and I think most teams kind of struggle in that area. But yeah, once we kind of go through this, I think Packers statistically, one area that they're very good is offensive line. I think statistically they're rated at the top in a lot of categories. Like if you look at like their grades, I think their center is probably their weakest link from what I remember. I think I saw even some like clips of them, losing at center, putting some guys over him. So it'll be interesting. Maybe they put Chop over center this week and give him some pass rush reps, but they are down Bowser, so they're already kind of weak at the edge position. But yeah. Do you think the D-line will be able to create pressure? That's kind of like the key in this game. If they're able to slow down the run, I wrote this down. Jordan Love, his stats, and I think the film backs it up. He's definitely worse under pressure. Like he struggles much more under pressure. That's where a lot of the mistakes can come through. And I think the Dolphins can create pressure if they get like chop some one-on-ones or with their blitz looks. They've been using a lot of different blitz looks, and that's how they've gotten after the quarterbacks. They've gotten free rushers going. I don't think it'll be as easy to create pressure just like, with your base rushing, just rushing forward like they have been the past few weeks, because the Packers O-line is much better than the Rams, the Patriots, the Raiders. So I think it will be more difficult, but it will have to be with a lot of, simulated pressure looks. But yeah, Packers are missing a couple players. They're missing their rookie linebacker. They're missing Jair Alexander and Romeo Doubs. I also think they got a few other guys questionable as well, but those guys are like confirmed out. They also do stuff like this on offense. We can check this out. But if you look at this play, they do a lot of this. Like this was like the return motion, with the end around into the spinner counter, and they do this type of stuff just like the Dolphins. Like look how much space is created here with this. They motion this across, but it's the return, so it's right at the snap. Boom, return, end around to the spinner counter, and like, dude, linebackers are gonna have to play at a super high level in this game. Like it absolutely creates so many run lanes. I did read that I think Jacobs got a lot of Jacobs tore up the Niner secondary, and I did read that they might limit Jacobs' workload a little bit because he's going from this game to has a quick turnaround versus the Miami, obviously being on Thursday night. Would be nice if the Dolphins can find some success running the ball. They haven't had too much success in recent weeks. Always helps out in cold weather games. I will say though, I think the whole cold weather thing, I think the Dolphins offense, with how they've been doing, especially since Tua's returned and how they've changed up their playing style, it's less throwing down the field, less, a lower average depth of target, stay ahead of the sticks, make third downs more manageable. I think their style of offense this season specifically does fit better in a cold weather atmosphere. Do need to be able to run the ball, I think, more consistently. That's going to be a big part of the game. But I do think the offense will find more success. I think, similarly to like that Bills game a couple years ago where they were in like cold weather, I think you'll see more of like that kind of capability from the offense. Not like the Chiefs game. The Chiefs games, dude, that one's. I mean, they were playing in -30. It's literally like a 50, 60 degree difference, and they're still going to be playing, like in the like 30 in this upcoming game, which is crazy. But yeah, they got a pretty good roster here. The receivers, Jaden Reed, I would say their slot receivers like their biggest weapon on offense at the receiver position. They use him in a lot of different ways. They hand him the ball off, get him screens. He'll make some catches down the field. He's kind of like their big time versatility knife type player. Christian Watson, big deep threat, spreads the field. Dontavian Wicks struggles to catch the ball, but that guy gets open. So if he's open, he can definitely run routes. Good offensive line play from Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins. I got Rasheed Walker, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan. Just a pretty strong offensive line group. Tucker Kraft, good tight end that they use as a blocker, give him a couple targets. Chris Brooks, we all know Chris Brooks. He's actually been their like number 2 guy in recent weeks over Emmanuel Wilson. He's been getting more snaps like earlier on in the games than Emmanuel Wilson is not a bad player, but like they've been using Brooks in a lot of different ways. Will be interesting. I believe if Miami wins this game, they may run the table. Rodgers need to be sold before they play the Jets to protect the Jets from being on the hook for injury guarantees. Yeah, I mean, I think either way with the Jets thing, I actually think they might even. I think because their backup's Taylor, right? Tyrod Taylor. I actually think at this point, with how Rodgers has played, I actually think Taylor might give them a better chance of winning. Is Green Bay a true 8-3 team? I would say they're pretty close to that record. They're a pretty good team across the board. Like defensively, they have a good D line. They have Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark. They also have Lucas Van Ness, who was a first-round pick, but he's not, I don't think, quite lived up to expectations. But those 3 guys can get after the quarterback, then they can stop the run. So you're pretty good up front. Linebackers, they're injured. They have Quay Walker, but after Quay Walker, like they are injured. Isaiah McDuffie might play, and he's like usually their guy that rotates in. They're missing their top corner in this game, but they have some good DBs back there. Xavier McKinney leads the league in interceptions. They've got some nice rookie play from Evan Williams and Javon Bullard. But I think these guys can be attacked. Oh, the Packers run a lot of single high coverages. They run cover 3 and cover 1 a decent amount. Dolphins didn't really face those types of coverages until last week versus New England. New England decided to run single high, run cover 1, and the Dolphins took advantage of that. Before that, they hadn't really been seeing those coverages. It was a lot of cover 2 at a higher rate. So we'll see if Packers try to mix those things up. But even so, like you've seen the positive that having Jonnu Smith has on the offense. Because I think the big difference last year is those. I even talked about when we got Jonnu Smith, why it was going to be so important. Is if you watch the offense last year, there's so many times the underneath tight end was open, but Tua just didn't take it, either forced it down the field, or he didn't take it because he didn't trust Durham Smythe or whoever it was to pick up the first down because they didn't have a ton of yak ability. Now you have someone like Jonnu Smith, and teams have to respect it. That's why New England, I think, stopped running so much zone, because we were just eating them up with Jonnu early on in the quick pass game. And then Jalen Waddle took over when they started running man-to-man. That's why Jonnu is so important to this offense right now. Same with Achane. You can use them as your underneath threats while Tyreek and Waddle are still spreading the field, and you can give them more targets. It just, you don't need to force it down there. Green Bay got hella lucky against the Bears. Yeah, that's true. That was a tough game for them. They blew out the Niners recently, but the Niners were beat up. So it is tough to kind of judge them in the recent times. Bears was a divisional game, and you never know. Sometimes divisional games go back and forth, and then Bears made a coaching change. But yeah, I do think they have a decent chance to win. Is it true McDaniels isn't doing the play calling? I don't believe that's true. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen anything about that. You think that if this game becomes a shootout, Miami would have a better chance to win? I don't know if it gives them a better chance, honestly. I think usually the shootout games aren't really Miami's best style of winning. I think they need to play more of a control type game, what they've been doing in recent weeks, longer drives, longer sustained stuff, keep the defense pretty much off the field. Yeah. Then we got this. Okay, that's the depth chart. I haven't heard anything about that. I'd be surprised if McDaniel gave up play calling. But yeah, the Packers have very good play calling, very good design. LaFleur is a very good coach. I think limiting the run game is important. Jordan Love's obviously a good player, and he didn't have turnovers last week, but that's like the key to the game. He's gonna, if you force him into situations where you can get pressure on him, obvious third down, obvious passing situation, they're not running their play action, they're running the ball super well. If you get him in those situations, that's where you can kind of force Jordan Love to start forcing some throws. And if he gives you an opportunity for an interception, you got to take advantage. I think this Packers defense with all their injuries is less talented than the Patriots defense. I think maybe on paper I could see why I'm saying that, but I think the Patriots defense had been kind of getting worse and worse. But yeah. Yeah, but the Packers lose when Jordan Love kind of makes those mistakes. That's kind of usually when those things change. They like the play action game. I showed, one of the plays earlier. A lot of the pass protection, like 2024 true pass set grade, Green Bay's at the top, number 1 offensive line. Dolphins brought back Patrick McMorris off IR. They waived Marcus May. Don't know if people saw. I made the video on McMorris this morning. There's also like the Shaq Barrett news. I don't really know what's going to happen with all of that. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, I also saw this thread like Tua Tagovailoa can play in the cold. A thread on why the bad weather narrative surrounding the QB Dolphins is overblown. I do think that the narrative around the cold weather is overblown. Like, obviously, I understand why it's there, but I do think the whole narrative is a little just talked about. Like, they've just played some good teams, and usually they play the best teams in the league in those cold weather situations, and they're usually on the downfall. I think this is why this game's such a big point, is because a lot of times times they've struggled in the cold weather games, they were already on like a downward trend, and then it was like one of the better teams in the league. This time they're on an upward trend. So I think if they can be pretty competitive, this is like their best chance to kind of put that narrative away. If you know if Kendall Fuller or Isaiah One will be playing, Fuller is out. Let me see. Fuller's out. Tyus Bowser is out. And who else? Anthony Walker is out, and then Teron Armstead's questionable. I believe everyone else was good to go, and they activated Isaiah Wynn, so I imagine Wynn's going to be active. I don't know if he's going to start, though. I don't think he's going to start. But yeah. Will be interesting to see. Yeah, I saw this on Twitter. This was posted by Eric Smith, the O-line coach. Just, they got one of their, edge linebacker guys lined up on the center here, and he just bullies him off the ball. Will be interesting to see if they maybe can start using some guys in this situation, because I think that's kind of how you can attack their offensive line, because they have some good tackle and guard play. I think their center play is where they're at their weakest. Make Jordan Love a little uncomfortable back there. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he started. Also, a lot of these like quarterback efficiency charts, Tua's been playing absolutely outstanding. Still thinking about this no-look GH counter bluff reverse. Are there any critical matchups that will be an issue for Miami? Yeah, so I would say, just looking at like the Packers interior D-line, I think Kenny Clark is a very good player. I think he'll give us trouble, specifically versus the Dolphins guards. Just in the running game specifically, because the Dolphins do a good job with their scheme in the passing game to slow those guys down, and with Tua getting rid of the ball so quickly, I'm not super concerned when it comes to pass protection, more of a scheme thing. But I think when it comes to the running game, that is where the Packers can kind of win that battle up front. So I think it's important to win there. Elsewhere, I think Jaden Reed versus like Kohu in the slot will be a big matchup, because usually Reed does most of his work out of their slot, and I think he's their best receiver. So it'll be a big game for Kohu. Also, Joe Barry is the defensive coordinator for the Packers last year. Packers fans hate Joe Barry. He's the Dolphins linebacker coach and run game defensive coordinator. So, hey, maybe the Dolphins linebackers come out with some fire in this game, because there's definitely a little bit of a rivalry there. Jordan Brooks is who you would want in that type of situation. Yeah, Brooks is one for sure, but I think I want to see Chop on the interior. I think he could absolutely take advantage of some of that stuff too. But Brooks is a very good blitzer from the interior. Alec Ingold 100% to this game. He's not on the injury. He's not listed with like questionable or anything, so he should be good to go. This could be a big game to have. They got Ingold back last week, but we didn't really need to run the ball, so they started running more 12 personnel, so they didn't really unleash Ingold last week. So I wouldn't be surprised in cold weather, and maybe they use more Mostert in this game too. The Packers have caused like 11 fumbles this season, so the Dolphins running backs need to protect the ball because we've lost 2 games this year from fumbles, the Bills game and the Colts game. Those were the game-changing plays, so wouldn't be surprised if they go pretty, try to get the run game a little more involved with Ingold out there, but yeah. Does Kohu usually play well in the cold? I mean, I don't know. I think the whole cold thing won't change too much when it comes to like defensive back play. Is Win starting? I don't think so. Let's see. What else? What haven't I talked about yet? Yeah, they have good running backs and wide receivers, but they have wide receivers at top of the league in drop percentage, like Dontavian Wicks. I think might lead the league. They have a pretty decent defense. I think statistically they rank around like 9 to 15 in a lot of the categories. But I think you can still move the ball against them. They're more of a bend, don't break, and then they get turnovers. So like, I think the Dolphins can find success if they continue to do what they're doing. No Jair Alexander definitely hurts them too, and they have no Edrin Cooper, who's like their really athletic rookie linebacker. Backup linebacker play is always good for the Dolphins to have because they attack the middle of the field a ton. But yeah, I think if the Dolphins come out of the game and they feel like they can pass, because sometimes when it's cold weather, you feel like, oh, everyone's going to lean on the running game. I feel like if the Dolphins come out and feel like Tua's comfortable and he's feeling good, I think they're going to lean on the pass again, to be honest. I think that's what's been successful. I think they're going to use the pass as an extension of the running game. Because with Austin Jackson out, their O-line just hasn't been as good run blocking. Kendall Lamb's been good in pass protection, but he's not a run blocking offensive lineman. I think they'll try to get to it, but I still think they're going to use like screens, quick pass to be more of an extension of the running game. And then like maybe take some shots down the field if they get 1-on-1s. You think they can get more from running on the outside or up the middle? I would like to see, I mean, obviously a mix, but I would like to see them try to work some more like gap scheme stuff up the middle, like the counter, like the play I just showed the Packers running. I wouldn't mind mixing that type of thing up, especially with Ingold. It would be, I think, what they could do. Do you like May cut? Well, I think they're trying to bring May back to the practice squad. It just shows they have a lot of faith in McMorris. I've talked about this. I think safety is a huge need for the Dolphins next year. Even if they re-sign Holland, I still think safety is a big need because Poyer is probably the worst starting defensive player right now on the team. May was bad when he played. And then like Campbell's a good special teams guy, but he's also, I think, on a 1-year deal. Really, the only one on your roster right now next year would be McMorris, and he's a 6th-round rookie, and we don't really know what we got from him yet, other than preseason where he looked good, but you still can't put a lot of eggs in that basket as a 6th-round rookie guy. So safety will be a big need next year. Definitely one where I'm looking to add out. Yeah, I think throwing in the cold isn't the big. It's just like it's throwing in the cold when it's negative 30 can definitely change things. When it's like 30 degrees, as long as it's not too like a lot of precipitation out there, like snow or rain, and it's not too windy, I still think you can throw fine in it. That's kind of the thing. If it gets too windy, that can really affect the passing game. Tyreek revenge game. I could see Tyreek having a pretty big game. He was off the injury report today too. Make the Packers one-dimensional by stopping the run. Yeah, I think that's the key to stopping the Packers offense is the running game. It's going to be tough though because they are very. Josh Jacobs is playing very good. Their O-line's good, and it's the play design. Their play design's phenomenal. Very similar. They run some similar stuff to the Dolphins, like a lot of those spinner counter stuff that we like to do. They run those end arounds, the reverses, like what we've been doing with Malik Washington recently. That's what they've been doing with Jaden Reed for the past year, like year and a half. This stat blew my mind. Poyer is the second most tackles on the team behind Brooks. Is that why they refused to get rid of him? That doesn't really shock me because like usually linebackers lead the team in tackles, but after linebacker it's the safeties, and you got to think like Holland's missed time with injuries. Your other linebackers were David Long and Anthony Walker, and they both missed times with injuries. So that doesn't surprise me that Poyer has the second most tackles. Plus, usually if you're a safety, having a ton of tackles isn't a great thing unless they're like near the line of scrimmage tackles. I think it tends to be Poyer's tackles are, 15 yards down the field, which is not a good thing. Shanahan tree game, yes, that's true. And LaFleur, I believe, at least from I don't have the stats on me, but like when I usually watch LaFleur versus Shanahan tree, he usually has pretty good success. Like I know he has good success against the Rams. They just beat the Niners. He usually has. We've only played him once, I think, with McDaniel. And we lost, but that was the game where Tua got concussed and he went from being really good in the first half to really bad in the second half. This is also Tua versus Jordan Love first game, both from the 2020 class. They haven't played each other yet. I believe that's the last 2020, guy that Tua hasn't played yet out of the starters because he's obviously played Burrow, Herbert, Hurts. I think Love's the only one that he hasn't played. Have we signed Barrett? No, I don't expect to hear about Shaq Barrett until like it won't be I think actually I did hear it might have to be Thursday, but I'm expecting it to be after the game if they make a decision or not. Poyer's probably rolling into the box more than Holland when they play single high too. Yeah, he is. I don't think, and honestly that's why I wanted their safety, because I think Holland is more valuable near the play than he is playing deep. And I don't think they trust Poyer because he just doesn't have the range to play deep on a consistent basis. That's why they really only go with him too high. They just have to cover as much ground. Yeah, creates pressure on Love. I saw his stats definitely went down when he got pressured on him. Yeah, that was a lot of the stuff. I also saw this. They're like, these charts you see on Twitter. This one is 2024 linebacker separation prevented and on-ball grade. This is raw PFF separation prevented, and let's see. I'll just show it from this angle. So here we go. It's see right here, in PFF on-ball grade, Jordan Brooks and Tyrell Dotson, who are the two Dolphins linebackers starting, and Anthony Walker's right here, who's right below the line. Brooks and Dotson are both in the upper right echelon, which is always a good sign. That means they're not super high up there, but they're above average in both. So been pretty good first to pass this year, at least in coverage. Are the Dolphins in your top 5 power rankings? No. I mean, I do think like as Tybla said, they are 5 and 6. I do think they are a better team than 5 and 6 right now. Like if you I don't think power rankings should just be the standings, because that doesn't really make sense. Like I think the Dolphins are better than some teams with a better record than them. Like if you're looking at how they're playing right now, they're playing pretty damn good. They're definitely playing right now. They're playing like a playoff team for sure. But they put themselves in such a hole with how they started 2 and 6 that they're in a tough spot to not make playoffs. Because it sucks. Statistically, if you look at the stats, they're not likely to make the playoffs. But I wouldn't be surprised if they finished this season and they were one of the better teams in the league with just how they've been, kind of on a roll for a while. This is why this game's huge for that. I think it's the next litmus test, because I thought even though they lost to the Cardinals and the Bills, they lost to last second field goals in both those games. Those games were very winnable, both good teams. And the Cardinals game they should have won. They threw that game away. The Bills game in Buffalo, they usually struggle. They could have easily won that game, but just lost on a 61-yard field goal with time basically expiring, which sucks. And then after that, I thought the Rams was a good test, because the Rams they're not a great team, but they're definitely not a bad team either. and they beat up on the Rams, and then they beat up on teams they should beat up recently in Raiders and Patriots. And I think, Packers are kind of the next step. Yeah, it is kind of a reverse this season because usually they start fast and finish slow. This time they started slow and might finish strong. So that's like a good sign, but I think they might have started too slow. What 5 teams are better in your opinion? I'd have to look at it. I haven't done any power rankings. It's always tough because I think things change so much week to week. Like you'd still have to put like the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs over them. That's in the AFC off the top of my head. Who's in the Eagles would be over them. The Eagles are playing good football. The Lions would be over them. So that's 5. The Lions are a very good team. Lions might be the best team in the league right now, honestly. Lose and we done. I think they can lose 1. I think 10-7 gets it done. But yeah. Shout out from the Bahamas. Love all your breakdowns. Hey, appreciate that, father and son wholesale. Fins up. The Bills game gave me hope. Yeah, I think the Cardinals and Bills game, even though they were losses, it showed that they can compete because those two teams were playing the Bills have been playing well. The Cardinals were playing really good at the time. Even though they lost this last game, they've still been playing good football. They were beating teams up. But yeah. Yeah, I do believe the Dolphins in the right situation with how they're playing right now can beat anyone. And I didn't feel like that way earlier in the season. Not saying they're the best team in the league, but I think with how they're playing, they can beat anyone with their talent. It's just how consistently can they do it. Yeah, and the Texans and the Niners, the schedule looks easier. Like this end of the part of the schedule looks a lot easier than it did at the start of the season because the Jets aren't a good team. They play them twice. The Browns aren't a good team. You should win those games. Not saying they're gimmies, but you should win those games. The Niners haven't been playing good. The Texans have a better record, but they've been on a downward spiral, not playing good football. The Packers' game is definitely the toughest game left on the schedule, in my opinion. And it's in Green Bay on Thanksgiving. Lots of narratives to destroy here. Beating a good team on the road in cold weather, and it's a primetime game, which the Dolphins have typically not been doing that well. Tua has played very well. Tua has been playing at a very high level. And he's doing it. I think the biggest thing is Tua's doing it. What the most encouraging thing is he's doing it a different way this season. Last year when he was playing at a super high level, it was a lot of pushing the ball down the field, high average depth of target. He still does some of those things, but it's not as much. And now he's taking what the defense is giving him, making very quick decisions. So yeah. Gotta look out for Jameis. Yeah, it depends what Jameis you get, because sometimes the Browns look competitive, like when they were versus the Steelers, but then the game before, they got blown out by the Saints, so they're a team that can be very hit or miss. And who knows what Jets we'll get. We might not even get Rodgers Jets. We've never even faced Rodgers Jets, which is kind of crazy, but yeah. Let's see. Anything else here? Who knows? I mean, I've been watching some draft players. Obviously, the Dolphins aren't. I'm not in that mode yet. If the Dolphins lost some of the past few games, then I probably would have gotten to draft mode pretty quickly, because then the Dolphins would have been out of it. But I've watched some guys. I actually think that I'm actually I know some people wanted to tank or whatever for a top 10 pick. This is not the draft to do that. This first round, I think it's a pretty deep class. I like the day 2 and some of the day 3 picks, the depth there, but the top of the class is pretty weak. Kind of crazy. But yeah, just interesting positions at the top too. I think edge, running back, tight ends, D tackles, that's kind of the top of it. Also looks like it's going to be 25 to 30-ish degrees or whatever tomorrow. But who knows, that could change. I think I saw winds would be 12 to 15 or something like that. Okay. Okay, here's another. You can look at this. This is just another chart. Like Tua's been at a lot of top of these charts. Another top right one. He's been at the top left in some too, which was been like it was depth of target because the depth of target's down. But his EP, this is a which quarterbacks are pocket kings, throws beyond the first read in the pocket. He definitely killed this narrative this year, getting past his first read, which was hit the rate that he's in the pocket, which is pretty high, and then his EPA per play, which I believe he's either 1 or 2. It's either him or Josh Allen with the highest EPA in the pocket. It's hard to tell because they're kind of like even. It looks like, but he's in the pocket a lot more than Allen is after the first read. Just impressive work. Definitely the biggest difference. Obviously, I think even the biggest Tua haters can't find argument. Like there's still arguments, they'll have, but it's kind of hard to argue right now that he's not playing maybe his best football ever. Let's see. What kind of the scheme? Oh yeah, so apparently I think the Packers run cover 3 at the highest rate. So you said, yeah, what do they run? I imagine they play a ton of cover 2 and 6 against us. Yeah, so they run a ton of cover 3, but teams typically run a lot of too high split safety looks against the Dolphins. Last week, the Patriots tried to mix it up because we've been eating alive too high more than usual, and then they tried to go back to their single high. They ran a lot of cover 1, and then that's when you got to see Jalen Waddle take over because it was like, oh, Waddle's going to get a one-on-one versus not a great corner. Even some good ones he did against Christian Gonzalez too, but he was dominant. What are you hearing on Shaq, or have you talked about it? I haven't heard too much. I've just seen random stuff on Twitter about it. I thought there were some good points taken up. To me, it kind of feels like, I don't know the exact rules on it, but it feels like he's kind of forcing the Dolphins' hands to be like, if you don't want to pay me, then cut me type of thing, And I don't know if the Dolphins want to pay him. Now, if he wants to come back to Miami and it's not too expensive, which I don't believe it would be, we do need edge help. If he is willing to play, I just don't know if he's in football shape, That's like the one thing I really have no clue what he's been keeping up with. It seemed like the coaches were caught off guard with it too, which is why I don't know if I expect him back, just because in the interviews it seemed like Weaver and McDaniel were like, yeah, haven't heard from him at all. I guess they could be lying, but yeah, I don't know why they would need to lie about that. But they desperately need another edge help. Like, with Chop coming alive, that's helped the defense so much because getting pressure with him off the edge has been such a help. But like not having Phillips or Chubb has been a big problem for them. Yeah, NT. Yeah, any more questions about the game? Things like that. Oh yeah, I hit 10K. Thank you guys. That's pretty sick. I think I hit that this morning, so that's awesome. Never expected that. So shout out to you guys, the subscribers out there. 10K subs, crazy. But yeah. Any questions about Dolphins, Packers, or just the Dolphins in general? I've been liking what I've seen from both sides of the ball, most for the most part. I still have some questions when it comes to the defense, like player specifics. Because I think Weaver's actually done a good job. I think McDaniel has been doing much better since Tua's returned. The offense has been playing quite well. Thanks, guys. You think it'll be a high-scoring one? Yeah, I do think it'll be more on the high-scoring side. +28, maybe 28 out of one of the team that wins. The other team may be a little like 24 or something like that. It's tough to say, I guess, if I don't know what the exact weather is going to look like. But I think if it's not like snowing, raining, windy, I expect both teams to have pretty good offensive success. Chubb practicing? No. But I didn't expect that to see it on like a quick turnaround, and he didn't practice last week. Hopefully he starts practicing next week because they're going to need him. Because win or lose, they're going to need him because if you win, you're like right into, like you are in the mix if you win this game. Like you have actually a legitimate shot at playoffs if you win this game. If you lose, you're still going to need him because then you have to win out to make playoffs. Because the rest of the schedule after this, all games, I think the Dolphins can be favored in, realistically, with how the other teams are playing. Like, they're better than the Jets and Browns for sure. Texans and Niners, definitely just teams not performing that well right now. Just hope it's not too windy. It can snow, yeah. Yeah, I think the wind would be the biggest problem, as long as it's not like pouring or snowing super hard. That's why Jonnu will be important. If it's like the conditions are bad, quick passing game, which we've been doing. They run zone. If they decide to go man, take those shots. Take those 1-on-1s, fades, 9 routes down the sideline to Tyreek, Waddle. Let them get going, that type of thing, which we got to see a little bit of last week. But Jonnu's been so good for the Dolphins. So many, honestly, a lot of the pickup, like Jonnu Smith, Aaron Brewer, I was big fans of those pickups, and they've been very good for the Dolphins. Like, exactly what they've needed. Like, there's like certain things each year where like, dude, we need this to like elevate a thing. Like, I started taking note. In my notes app, I put down like what they need next year. Just thinking about it, like what position could elevate the team. But last year I thought it was Jonnu. If you watch the tape, it was like you need a tight end that can get yards after the catch and find soft spots versus zone to take advantage of the areas that's being given up by the defense for the Dolphins. And they got that. Brewer, they just need an athletic center that can just run out in space, be a guy on screens, outside zone, and he was exactly what they needed. But yeah. Brooks is another one. Very good player for them. I would say those are probably the best free agent. And Calais. I was like, I knew I'm forgetting someone. Calais. Those are the top 4 free agent pickups, for sure. And yeah, Fuller would probably be the 5th guy. He hasn't played like top tier, but when he's been healthy, he's been a solid, I would say, player for them. Solid contributor. Yeah, stopping the run will be the big key in this game. And I will say, like, Tyrell Dodson is going to start in this game. I do have more faith with Dotson in coverage than I do with him in the running game. So I do have some concerns, I think, when it comes to the linebacker play in this one when it comes to stopping the run. So we'll see how that ends up going out. That's definitely one to keep an eye on. Who are our free agents? Like next year? Or what do you mean? Because I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure I can find it out. Is it? I know, like, Javon Holland's going to be a free agent. Like, our entire safety room will be free agents. Safety's going to be huge next year. I wrote it down next year. A safety, like, maybe getting an elite safety. I want a safety next year that is obviously a good, like, overall well-rounded safety, but I think they need a safety that can also play it, like, nickel and man up. That's why, like, I'm not against taking Malachi Starks in the draft. Like, a safety that can play nickel snaps for you is so important. Let's see. Okay. I'll go through Tyrell Dodson's a free agent, Emmanuel Ogbah, Jeff Wilson, OBJ, Kendall Lamb, who's retiring, Duke Riley, Javon Holland, that's a big one, Barrios, obviously, Eichenberg, Robert Jones. So our 2 are starting guards right now are free agents next year. Calais, Jordan Poyer, Isaiah Wynn, Benito Jones, Elijah Campbell. Yeah, so the whole safety room's free agents. Anthony Walker, Deshaun Hand. So we have a lot of our D-line room is free agents outside of Sealer. Kohu's a free agent, but he's a restricted free agent, so they can probably get him back pretty easily. But that's kind of like the big names, or at least, so Holland's like the big one, I would say. Zach Sealer, a menace. Oh yeah, I think Zach Sealer. I didn't make a video on Zach Sealer this week. I wanted to, but just didn't have enough time. But Sealer has, honestly, I think Sealer's, since he got that visor after the eye injury, I think he's playing the best football of his career right now. Like, and he's always been very good, but I think he's playing like even at a slightly higher level than usual. For sure, Sonny. Yes, Brewer over Williams. Williams retired, and he was coming off injury. I think people had concerns because of Brewer's numbers, like what he was rated in pass protection. But I didn't have concerns because I just know how the Dolphins schemes work, and he was like the perfect fit when in the running and screen game. Probably going to see Tehran and oh, you mean like leave the team? Yeah, Calais is one because he might retire as well. Calais might retire. I know Kendall Lamb's retiring. Armstead, who knows what he wants to do. But, yeah, a lot of the defense. Next year, I think you still have Ramsey. I know Fuller is under contract. You still have a lot of your DBs, I think, other than your corners, other than Kohu. The entire safety room's gone. Linebackers, you still have Brooks. And then D tackle and you still have your D tackle and your edges. Like you still have Zach Sealer and your edges. The other D tackles are free agents. But I could see them moving on from Chubb to save cap space. Because they still have Phillips, I believe, on his 5th year option. Brewer is explosive. Yeah, next year will be big for Phillips because, coming off the injuries. Yeah, Patrick Paul played snaps in this most recent game. Wasn't a very good showing, but after I started watching this draft class, right, this upcoming one, the 2025 class, the offensive tackle group is weak. It is not very good. It is not even close to as good as last year's class. I can understand now why they kind of went a year ahead of taking a tackle when they probably needed to. It's just Patrick Paul wasn't the guy I would have taken in the 2nd round. So hopefully he can develop. I would say that's the one pick in this 2024 most recent class the Dolphins had that has me the most concerned. Like considering where he was taken, Chop is playing amazing. And then other guys are contributing. Like Jalen Wright's had his moments. Malik Washington has had his moments. I haven't seen Kamara yet, but these are late round picks. Sometimes those guys don't contribute right away. Nick Morris just got activated, so we'll see what we have out of him. But yeah, Hand is a free agent. But a lot of those guys should be not super expensive to bring back. Get them on cheap deals and still have them a part of the rotation if the Dolphins want to. Same with like Benito Jones. Hopefully, and they're still like older too, so I don't expect them to get like big deals anywhere else. But that's at least that's what I would expect. Yeah. It also, with Chop's development, I mean, it depends. I think I expected more from Chop in year 1 just because I think he is developing faster than I expected, which is good for him. But I think he just had the skill set to at least contribute in a very specific way. And you can tell he's a sponge. Like he's been talking about, and like Calais is always talking to him, Chubb, Phillips, even he's getting lessons from Armstead. Those things have been reported. He clearly wants to get better, which is one of the biggest things for a guy. Like if you're super talented, if you put in that work, like very good chance, you end up making it. This game will be fun though. It's going to be very, very important, biggest game of the season. I will say I'll say the last 5, even though they lost the first 2 of the last 5, have been, since Tua's returned, have been just such a different feel to the season. Like, I feel like in the first part after Tua got hurt, there was just no hope. It wasn't even fun to watch. Now it feels like, even though we decent shot, you don't make the playoffs, at least the season turned around and been pretty fun, and now you've given yourself a chance. And I feel way better about like certain players and the coaching staff going into next year because I kind of expect not too many changes now with how things have played out unless they completely collapse. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's definitely been much more exciting to watch. I'd rather, I think it's much better to be filled with hope and then maybe get disappointed than to have just no hope at all every single week. Yeah, Weaver is doing good. I've seen a lot of lists where Weaver, he could go elsewhere. I don't think he will after 1 year, maybe after 2. But yeah, I think Weaver's done a good job. I like what I've seen out of Weaver. And I think like he's got a lot of like good blitz works, getting people like free rushes. And I don't think the Dolphins have had I think with the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, he's done a good job because I feel like there's been games and it hasn't been perfect for the defense. But usually the defense's struggles, I think, have come more from execution than scheme. And just players that had to be out there. I think safety and linebacker is so important to this style of defense. Like if you go look at the Ravens last year and like what's happening in Seattle right now with McDonald, they had to make sure they got the right linebackers and they moved corners to safeties until they got the right people. And now they started playing better. Like what they did last week versus the Cardinals was way, way better. And they've switched people around. So I think if they can get another stud linebacker next to Brooks and maybe get like, I would be focusing at that part of the defense because I think he's shown he can get by with like Sealer and then a bunch of other like solid defensive tackles, like nothing too crazy. And then we're going to get our edges back. I think you'll still have a decent corner room just based on your contracts. You can add a couple bodies there, but I don't think you need to add anything crazy. I think try to get an elite linebacker if you can, which is obviously not easy to find, just like a high-end linebacker. And a safety that can potentially play as like a slot matchup guy, I think that'd be huge. Your film study on Brewer was spot on. Yeah, that was one I felt, there's sometimes with players where like, I'm not super confident. I'm like, I don't know exactly how they're going to fit. I'm just like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll be solid. Brewer was one where I'm like, you watch it right away. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is, even though I saw Titans fans talking mad, shit about him, I was like, these are just, sometimes there's just a match made in heaven and you see it right away. I'm like, oh, this is exactly what McDaniel wants at that position. And Brewer was like the perfect fit. Same with Jonnu, because I think Jonnu wasn't like, oh, it's a match made in heaven, like scheme wise. It was a match made in heaven of like, oh, this is how defenses play the Dolphins. If they just put Jonnu in that situation at tight end, it would be so much more effective for the Dolphins. An explosive rookie D tackle pair with Chop. Yeah. I mean, the D tackle class is pretty good in the draft. I would say there's a lot of, the edge class is good too. So if they want to take an edge, there's a lot of edges in like day 2, like a lot of edges. The tight end class is really good. I think the Dolphins should look for a tight end, someone that can play as a Y tight end, an inline tight end to pair with Jonnu, because I think that's the next step in the offense. Having someone who can play inline, move around and block while also being a potential solid receiving threat. Just upgrading like the Durham Smythe and Julian Hill part of the team, I think could help the offense even take another step. Because those guys, I think, have been some of the biggest problems. Also, upgrading guard is always a help. I think if they don't even need to get like great guards and pass protection, because we've seen you don't need a lot of time in this offense to throw the ball. We just need guards that can run block. And it's not like Jones and Liam have not played, I think, as bad as people expect, but those are guys you can clearly, I think, upgrade on, and they're both free agents. Good point, Garrett. The penalties is a huge part, and I think Tua's a big part of this, because with all the pre-snap movement, that's why it's so impressive what Tua's doing sometimes, because there's so much he has to process pre-snap and think about. Like, he has to look at every part of the defense, how they're aligned. Are they showing pressure? Like, on the back end, is it too high, single high? Where are the corners aligned? And then also be like, okay, I have to shift this guy around. He has to stop. Now everyone has to be set, and then I have to motion the guy, and then I have to snap it with the perfect timing, and then do all of that pretty late, because McDaniel's plays are very long too, so it's a lot of stuff to do pre-snap. Oh yeah, I literally tweeted about this, Nicholas. I don't know if you saw, but I tweeted, I'm like, the funniest part of Dolphins Twitter is I always check after a bad Julian Hill play. Like, even if it's not even that bad of a play, I always check Twitter and everyone's just roasting him, and it makes me laugh every time. It's so funny. Trade up for Travis Hunter. Yeah, Travis Hunter is one of like the only players in this class that I feel that's like a true top 10 player. There's not a lot of true top 10 players in this class. I think both Julian Hill and Smythe are going to be gone next year. Yeah, there's a shot at that for sure. I think Julian Hill will be on the team for training camp if I had to guess, just because he's cheap and on a UDFA deal, and they're going to hope he develops. I think they're committed to his development. Now, does he stick around? I think he has to prove himself like a lot to stick around. Smythe, I could see going either way. I could see them cutting him just to save some money. I don't know exactly what his contract looks like, but I think they can save some money if they cut him. And I think they're going to need cap space, and they might want to, go somewhere else with that. And he's not played good this year. But I also think they just like Smythe and think he's reliable, but this year has not been that case for him. That's why I think the tight end draft class is so good. I would love to draft a tight end on day 2. Like, I really like Gunnar Helm from Texas. I think he would be perfect for what the Dolphins need because he plays a different role than what Jonnu plays. And Jonnu is on a 2-year deal, so you'll have one more year with Jonnu. You can potentially re-sign him after that. But then him and Jonnu would play different positions, and then they would complement each other super well. But then Gunnar Helm can also make an impact as a receiver compared to what Durham and Hill has. Plus, he can also block. The Dolphins need a tight end that can block. There's also, there's a tight end from Georgia Tech. He doesn't do really anything as a receiver, but that guy's like a 6 offensive lineman. If he's there in day 3 somewhere, I would take him too. Just to have a guy out there that can block at tight end, because that guy can block. I forget his name. It's like Jackson Hawes or something. I signed a 2-year deal. Smythe signed a 2-year deal. I think I can't remember. I know I think you're right, but they also restructured him this offseason. So I don't know what with the restructure, what the contract looks like now. I think it might have just been moving money around. I don't know if they added years or not, though. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I hold my breath, too. Like, Julian Hill is not good. Like, he plays physical with the ball in his hand, but dude, looks like he's gonna fumble it every single time. I believe Jonnu was a 2-year. That's just off the top of my head, though. Like, I remember it being like a 2-year, either 10 or 12 million, something like that. They got him for like 4 to 6 million a year, and I thought it was a 2-year. Do you think Mostert will be gone? I think there's a decent chance of that, yes. I think it might be time to move on from the Mosterts and the Wright, or the Wilsons of the team. I think it's time to go more Achane and Wright, your top 2. Sign a vet, and then maybe draft a day 3 running back, because you have 11 picks. I think they have 10 or 11 picks next year. I'm out on the type of thinking that running backs usually fall in the draft, so like I usually would draft a running back almost every year, not early but late, because there's usually good value. So that's kind of what I would do with a running back room. And if they did want to bring Mostert back, I think you would have to take like a little bit of a pay cut, because I don't think you should pay him, because I think he got like a pay raise this year, right? I don't think you should be paying him that kind of money to be basically your 3rd guy, because Achane's your number 1, and I think Wright will just continue to get more and more stuff. Yeah. I think unfortunately for Wright he's gotten more touches in the recent weeks. It's just things have not been blocked up well when he's been in. Dundee, I saw your comment about that. When are we getting I saw like right before I went live, when are we getting the We Are Back People merch? Dude, who in their right mind would buy that? Honestly though, saying like "We're back, people," it just gets me into the video, because if I don't say it, I'm not locked in. I'll stumble over my words. Just gets me in the mode. Appreciate your work, man. Hey, appreciate that, Tarnaman. Also, do you think this team would improve with a thumper back? I think that's one position, like I've talked about, like I try to look at a specific skill set that I think would elevate the Dolphins. And I've talked about the wide tight end. I've talked about maybe some more run blocking guards. I've talked about a safety that can play as like a nickel match slot guy. I think that would help. Another linebacker, obviously. I do think it would help a bit, but I think more so the problem right now with the running game is not a running back problem. I just think the O-line without Austin Jackson is not as consistent running the ball. There's just not as many lanes. Because I think you can get thumper type runs from like a Jalen Wright or a Mostert. It just depends. I think it just depends. Yeah, that was pretty much everything. Let me cut that off. But yeah, will be a good game. Packers are the best team left on the Dolphins schedule. I think after the Bills, in their whole schedule, I think after the Bills, this is the Dolphins' toughest game. just considering where it's at. Not even just to like the whole cold weather narrative. I just think any team going into Lambeau on a short week is going to have a tough battle ahead of them. Who makes the starting team in a combined Packers and Dolphins all-star team? Okay, so I would say the receivers would be Waddle, Tyreek, and Jaden Reed. Offensive line, left tackle would be Teron Armstead. Left guard would be Elton Jenkins. I think center would be Brewer. I think right guard would be their guard, Sean Ryan. I think right tackle would be Zach Tom, their tackle. Tight end's tough because Tucker Kraft and Jonnu Smith are very different players. They don't even they're both tight ends, but they don't play the same position. Like Tucker Kraft's a Y, and Jonnu is an F move tight end. So I don't even know who I would say. They would both basically play the same amount. Quarterback? Do I even want to answer that question? I mean, I guess it depends on the system. I mean, I guess they both run the same system, but with how Tua's playing right now, I would say Tua. Now, if you're taking injuries into question, but I'm taking Tua personally. Josh Jacobs would be the running back, I think, but Achane would play just as much. It'd be pretty tough. I'm trying to think, like Ramsey and Jair Alexander would be the corners. Xavier McKinney and Javon Holland would be the safeties, so we both get one. The nickel would probably be Javon Bullard, who's their nickel, if I had to guess. He's a rookie, though. Linebackers, probably Jordan Brooks and Quay Walker, so 1-1. Seems pretty even. The edges would be Rashawn Gary and then Chop, I think. And then D tackles would be... D tackles would probably be Zach Sealer and Kenny Clark. It seems like just like one person from each team is like in each group, Pretty even battle across the board. Yeah, Jacobs Achane is probably like the ideal backfield because I think they complement each other's skill set. I felt like I was just going back 1-1. I guess obviously Waddle and Tyreek would be your best receivers. But the Packers, I think, have a deeper wide receiver room. Because they have like 6 guys who all make an impact. The Dolphins only really have like... It's gotten better this year for sure. Like, it used to just be Tyreek and Waddle. Now Malik gets involved. Want to see more from OBJ, but obviously, I still think you can get something out of him. And then Craig Kraft is always a good blocker, but they have good blocking type good in there too. Like I think that Malik Heath is their River Craig Kraft. Yeah. It'll be a tough one. Oh man. Let me be thankful for a win, please. I really wish it wasn't on a Thanksgiving game. I just feel like Thursday games are not it for the Dolphins, but feels like things are changing this year. Feels like things are just going in a very different direction compared to the previous seasons under McDaniel. Yeah, true. Yeah. After the Kansas City game next year, I'm sure they'll be grateful to be like, oh, this is a cold weather game? Because, dude, that was like walk outside and get frostbite weather. Like, people were getting frostbite being at that game. That's just insane. Thought you were a 14-year-old kid? I get that a lot. I'm almost double that in age, so. But thanks. It's better than sometimes people just be like, I can't listen to your voice. I'm like, okay. Why even leave that comment? Just don't watch the video if you're saying you can't watch it. Yeah. Really hope we win this one because a win would because obviously I'm feeling good about the team. My hopes are definitely up. But I still have my reservations, and there's still things each week that I see on film. I'm like, okay, the Dolphins need to be better here, or this needs to be more consistent on both sides of the ball. And there's still things I need to see. But this game, if they won, especially if they won and they looked pretty good, it wasn't just a fluke win where they got lucky and it was super ugly. If they won and looked good, oh man, I'm afraid my hope would go off the charts. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of fun being it does feel like they're getting more national attention though. It felt like pretty much everyone stopped talking about the Dolphins for a while, but it does feel like you're seeing it more week to week, which I do prefer to be more under the radar. If we win tomorrow, we win out. Definitely possible. I think this is definitely the hardest game left on the schedule, but it's the NFL, man. You see these. That's why I never like take it for granted, beating up on like the Raiders or the Patriots, because we just saw these teams win some other games, and we've seen teams on their level win games that they're not supposed to. It happens every single week. I mean, the Panthers almost just beat the Chiefs. Like that, those things happen. Like blowing out good teams are bad teams. Is never a bad thing in my mind because they are still NFL level talent. I'm boycotting cheese till after Thanksgiving. Cautiously optimistic, I believe, is what you're feeling. Maybe, yeah. I'm optimistic for sure right now. Like even I'm just saying, like there's still question marks with the team. I just think my expectations would get raised a lot with a Packers win over the Packers. But I will say I would say like my overall view of the team, even going into next year, I would say my view of that is much different than it was at the start of the season. Like my view of like, oh, there's like potential with like McDaniel made the adjustments that needed to be had. I think Weaver's shown enough to where I'm like, okay, I feel confident with your offense and defensive play caller, which I think is honestly the most important thing. Now it's about staying healthy, which the Dolphins have stayed relatively healthy compared to last year. Like last year, they were decimated pretty much around this point. And I think that was one of the main reasons for your fall off, not the whole reason. I think a lot of other players started struggling too, but yeah. Browns and Eagles not to be underestimated. Yeah, I think it depends. I've seen the bad Browns and the good Browns version, but I do think the Dolphins should win that game. um, yeah, honestly, I think losing at the start of the year might have been a blessing in this disguise for I think the Dolphins, specifically when it came to like changing offensive play calling. It could really help in the long run, at least. Yeah. Chris Brooks will be playing tomorrow. He's been the second guy in that rotation for the Green Bay. Like Emmanuel Wilson also plays a lot for them, but Chris Brooks, he does a lot. He catches the ball to the backfield. He's their pass protecting back. He even plays some fullback for them. So, we'll get to see that. And I expect to see, I saw a report saying that they're probably going to, not force feed Jacobs because they fed Jacobs a lot last week. And he's an older back going into a Thursday night game. They probably don't want to, workhorse him again. Yeah. A lot of those teams might be fighting for a draft spot. The Jets, the Browns, mainly just those guys. You still play the Texans, Niners. And I think that's it, right? After Green Bay, it's just the Jets twice. Browns, Niners, Texans. Yeah. Chris Brooks gives a fumble to his own team. I hope so. I mean, we've had old Bills players giving away free plays the whole season to the Bills. See, this is where smart, high IQ Dolphins fans hang out. This is a community I've tried to create. The high IQ fans. Fins 31, Green Bay 27. I hope so. You never know with these games. Things can always go wrong in a second, but it will be very exciting to watch, at least. Probably the most faith I'll have, though, in a game, I think, against like a good opponent that I've had in a while. So, just with how the Dolphins have been playing. feels like it can carry over. Yeah. But Green Bay is a very well-coached team, and they will create turnovers, and their offensive playbook is very good. I think Weaver has... I think that's the biggest question mark. I don't know how the defense is going to perform versus Green Bay. I think that's one where I'm like, I just saw the Raiders move the ball decently versus the Dolphins, and Green Bay is a lot better, and they have a very good scheme. They do a great job with their play calling, and play design. That would be, I think, one of the biggest concerns for me going into this game. Do you see Tua throwing over 30 times tomorrow? Please answer. I would say, I think as long as the weather's not too bad. Like if the weather is like just cold, not super windy or like rainy, snowy, then yeah, I think he throws over 30. I still think we're going to throw a decent amount. I think, we use that quick passing game like I've been saying. I think the screens and like the quick passing game to Jonnu is almost an extension of the running game, and we just haven't been running the ball well. And I think clearly the Dolphins want to have more long sustained drives, and I think the passing game, if you look at our EPA, the passing game has been, like, when we pass on first down, we actually are more successful with success rate in drives. Take that, Flores. Okay, but the D was great against the Pats and almost pitched out. That's true. They were very good against the Patriots. It's just like week to week, they have like good moments. Like it's almost gone like back and forth, from since the Bills game. Like they're not good versus the Bills, then they were very good versus the Rams. Then versus the Raiders, I thought they underperformed. Then they were really good versus the Patriots. So, and I think the Packers will be the toughest matchup they've had yet. That's why I'm still not like, I have like good feels about the future of the Dolphins defense. But I do think there will be weeks they still find their struggles. Yeah, they play a lot of cover 3, and they will go cover 1 as well. So that's why I think they will be passing the ball, because Patriots tried to go cover 1 a lot last week, and we passed the ball a lot. Because they went cover 2 or zone early on, and Dolphins just get hitting Jonnu, and then they started hitting Waddle when they got the cover 1 looks. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so yeah, that's probably, we'll end it for the video. We'll no videos, or no, end it for the stream. No videos tomorrow because it'll be the game, and then after that we'll post, more Dolphins videos after the game. We'll see how it goes. Thank you guys for watching.